There's a bunch of immigrants coming through my property. I do not condone this. I've asked the Border Patrol to stop it. I just have to allow them to go through my property. Where are you from?
This is video shot by Brian Silvas, whose property is up against the U.S.-Mexico border in eastern San Diego County, California. He bought the land 2 years ago, but in the last 6 months, he's been dealing with a surge of people passing through his backyard.
Follow the road that way, all the way. Look for the lights. You'll see the lights. Most of them are men. They're all Turkish, Kurdish, Chinese, everything, the whole gamut.
Silvas wanted to show me where he believes the migrants are crossing the border into his property. As soon as we arrived, we encountered about a dozen walking right in.
It's a pretty simple cross over into the U.S., and like that family, it's not that hard. They just step in and they're here.
So this is the original, I guess, 19-something border.
This right here.
Uh-huh. And Border Patrol probably comes and does this, but look, I mean, it's an open door. You could go right through there. They usually just walk through. They don't care if I'm there. They walk through and ask me which way. I'm going that way. Keep going.
Just an hour after we left Silvas' property, a wildlife camera we had set up at the location captured another group of migrants, much larger than the last, entering the U.S. A senior CBP official tells us that it's up to local law enforcement to enforce trespassing on private property, and that Border Patrol agents cannot physically block people from crossing into the country, nor send them immediately back across the border. They can only take them into custody and process them accordingly.
Really interesting. Okay, so I think we need to talk about it and unpack a few things here. Okay, but yeah. So this whole situation is going so out of hand in the past few years. Okay, I don't know if you guys been living under a rock or what's not, but yeah, man, these people, these immigrants have been moving into this country in waves and droves and waves, just moving into the country. Okay, and they're just coming across the border in all these different parts, like in Arizona and through Canada into and being bussed up from New York and into like Maine and Washington, and then also going into California. But you guys already know that the district, that the governor, or rather the mayor of Chicago, Ben Johnson, he's with open arms welcomed all the migrants to come to his city and be sheltered in place, and his open arms policy. So basically, Governor Abbott of Texas said, "Hey, you know what, Mayor Johnson, I'm gonna take you up on that open arms policy, and I'm gonna checkmate you." Okay, and he said, "I'm gonna checkmate you." That's what he said he's gonna do. Okay, because Johnson said, "Yeah, I guarantee Johnson in his office was sitting there like, I don't think he actually gonna do it. I don't think they're actually gonna send people over here and have people bust over here." And guess what? You know what? They called their bluff and they did it. They did it. Okay. And now, and Ben Johnson, he ain't folded. He's still right now. He acting all holy without sin, and just, all holier than thou. But it's basically saying that they're gonna keep the open arms policy going, especially through the winter time, which is what he's hoping, because now that it's starting to get a little chilly over there, starting to get a little cold down there in Illinois at this time. Okay, back in Chicago, this time of day, this time of the year, you're gonna be getting a little cold. The temperature drops a little bit more than it is in Venezuela and in certain other countries. So yeah, we'll see how much the American dream really means to you, and how hard and how much you're willing to go through to get it. So yeah. With that being said, I'm actually gonna jump into this video where my man actually kind of explains it, and he's kind of going to go to some details about it, about the whole situation here. But I want you guys to really pay attention because I think this is great information to kind of have people be aware to. Because I don't think that so many, like a lot of people are living under a rock with this information. Like a lot of people are just kind of not really aware of what's going on, and they're so focused in on their own lives and not realizing what's going on outside their own four walls of their home. So I think it's very important that we get this information out there, and yeah, share this video if you can. But yo, let's get right into it, y'all.
The stories that I followed, of all the updating cases and narratives, few are as interesting, as compelling, have as many twists and turns and twists as the migrant crisis currently facing the United States of America. For those of you who are unfamiliar, the Democratic Party campaigned essentially in 2020 on open borders. The evil orange man was an evil white racist. He had an immigration policy based on evil white racism, and they decided that they were going to let in the asylum seekers, have them flood to the border. And since Biden has taken office, that's exactly what happened. According to the CBD numbers, there's about 7 million border encounters, and 1.5 billion of those people who crossed the border ended up getting away from Border Patrol. However, what's more interesting is the majority of cases, because most people, unlike before in our history, aren't trying to sneak past Border Patrol. What they're actually doing is going to border crossings, walking up to border agents, and declaring asylum. And the reason that they do this is because being an asylee grants you a bunch of protections that an illegal immigrant on its own does not necessarily get. Now, one of the problems with this is that these people are largely economic migrants. One of the reasons why we know that is because a huge portion of them come from Venezuela. They pass through about 6 countries on their way to the southern border. And if they were really in fear of threat of violence or political persecution or whatever from the Venezuelan government, you would think that they would claim asylum in each of those nations before entering to the United States of America.
Now, see, that's a key point. That's a very key point. That these people are willing to travel through how many countries did he say? 6 different countries, up through Venezuela, up through South America, all the way up to here in the States. Yeah. Okay. But then again, we can't underestimate these people's will and determination to want and change for a better life. I mean, but now things are reversing. It's like, how much are you willing to go through to get the American dream? What does it cost to you? What is the individual cost to you? It's a good question to ask yourself. It's a good question if you're in that situation.
Typically, when you're running away and looking for safe harbor, you go to your next option so that you can be safe rather than your first choice. What they're doing is shopping for countries. They like the United States of America. They like the benefits offered in a lot of left wing cities in the United States of America. So they've been surging to the border. Now, Governor Greg Abbott of Texas, very notably, is busing these migrants to places where they would not normally go because they say
Greg Abbott, like I mentioned, just busting people out of bam. You going to Illinois. You going to New York. You going to Cali.
that they're welcoming to migrants. They passed extra laws during the evil orange man's presidency to say that they're welcoming sanctuary cities. And this has led Greg Abbott to call their bluff and send people there. On top of that, a lot of migrants want to go there because they are made aware of the benefits in places like New York with the right to shelter, or in Chicago where they don't check migration status when looking at who they're
There you go. Right to shelter. Okay. So they're just busting in these people into these states with the assumption that they're going to just shelter them in. And it's causing problems. You got the people in these cities, okay? The black people and all the other gentrified people, all the other minority races and people who don't have as much, where they're gentrified in certain parts of the city, and then you got all the migrants who are coming in and they're taking up the space on the sidewalks and in hallways and certain buildings and offices and facilities. And it is what it is, but those people should have a right to complain as well because that's where they live. And then they're just being bussed and being discarded and people and dumped off essentially in the neighborhood. So a lot of tension, a lot of valid reasons for that tension as well, I'd say.
Handing out government benefits to, so they were asking to go there. However, winter has set in the city of Chicago, and many migrants are regretting their choice and talking about how Venezuela is actually better than the city of Chicago. And that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we do, I want to say thank you to everybody signed up over on actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
And thank you to the podcast listeners, Spotify, Apple, and Google's podcasting platform.
A bus of brand new arrivals pulls up at the 12th District Police Station today. While migrants continue to arrive daily in Chicago, the amount is not nearly as many as it was over the summer when daily bus arrivals were in the double digits. Today, the city is expecting only 2 buses.
So as you heard from the local news, Chicago is still receiving busloads of migrants each and every week. However, the buses are coming in less frequently and there are less people on them. And this is largely due to the fact that Ned Stark was correct.
Winter is coming.
And winter is coming.
Volunteer Luciana Diaz says the Halloween day snow was a reality check for many living at the police stations.
The snow day, it was freezing for everybody. And I told them, that's nothing. This is nothing, guys. You should start looking for shelter or go to other state, other city.
So yeah, there was snowfall that happened on Halloween day. This snow ended up scaring a lot of the migrants because they're sleeping out in tents by police stations in the city of Chicago, which, by the way, is one of the reasons why the city of Chicago is spending significantly less money on the migrant crisis, even per capita, than the city of New York. New York is talking about $5 billion in costs for the city, and the city of Chicago will report numbers like 330 million, maybe an extra 200 million from the city, so total 500 million, not including, of course, K through 12 enrollment, which would definitely jump that up to the billion range. And one of the reasons why they're saving on that money is because they're putting people up in tents outside of police stations, which, by the way, is completely crazy and asinine and compromises the security of those police stations. But this is the way that Chicago, who has a mayor called Brandon Johnson, who's pretending that the migrants are the greatest thing to ever reach the United States of America ever, are skirting around their pledges in order to support these individuals. Credit, I guess, where credit is due to Eric Adams in New York City, even though the laws are a little bit different there. He seems to be trying to live up to, while begrudgingly talking about all the problems related to migration, the laws that are actually passed in New York City. But in Chicago, Brandon Johnson is counting on the winter weather to scare off the migrants so he could save on the cost of them. This is one of the reasons why his rhetoric is nowhere near similar to Eric Adams' rhetoric.
Never in my life have I had a problem that I did not see an ending to. I don't see an ending to this. I don't see an ending to this. This issue will destroy New York City. Destroy New York City. We're getting 10,000 migrants.
Golly, he's speaking spicy. Eric Adams speaking spicy on the microphone. Golly. Woo. Yeah, that's what he said. No, those are his words, not mine.
It's a month. One time we were just getting Venezuela. Now we're getting Ecuador. Now we're getting Russian speaking coming through Mexico. Now we're getting Western Africa. Now we're getting people from all over the globe have made their minds up that they're going to come through the southern part of the border and come into New York City. And everyone is saying it's New York City's problem. Every community in this city is going to be impacted. We got a $12 billion deficit that we're going to have to cut. Every service in this city is going to be impacted.
Who talks consistently about how the migrant crisis is going to destroy the city and actually just signed into law budget cuts in order to compensate for the crisis.
With the realization of a cold winter ahead, combined with the lack of shelter and jobs, many migrants we spoke with at the 1st and 12th District Police Stations say if given the opportunity, they would leave Chicago for another city.
Now, I also will say the idea that these people should look for other states is absurd in every possible way, because what ultimately is being pushed by this migrant activist is for these people to leave the city of Chicago, go to warmer southern states, aka border states, which are the exact states that don't want these people and are sending them to where they're supposedly much more welcome.
Diaz says some migrants even want to go back to their home country.
Now, as far as these migrants saying that they want to go back to their own country, I will say, go. Be free to do so, travel back there, have safe trips and whatnot. But I find it quite interesting that these people are supposedly claiming asylum. They're saying that they're in danger for some reason in their home country, but a little bit of October snow in the city of Chicago is making some of them reconsidering the American dream altogether. This seems to me to be indicative of asylum fraud, something that we've been talking about on this channel throughout this process. A lot of people get angry because I'll title the video Migrants or Migrant Crisis, even though that's what is being called broadly. And they're saying that I don't call these people out for being illegal immigrants, even though I do. But it's very interesting to have these people essentially admit that they are illegal immigrants abusing the asylum system as soon as a little bit of snow starts falling in the city of Chicago. Now, it does get really dangerous out there for minorities in Chicago when it comes to the winter. As we all know, when a polar vortex happens, that's when the evil white racist Trump supporters come out with the bleach, with the noose, and start yelling it's MAGA country.
He said, this MAGA country.
At famous actors like Jussie Smollett. So maybe, just maybe, these migrants are worried about being caught up in a very similar situation.
They have an American dream, for my opinion, is a fake American dream. So they asking me a lot for if I know some.
She just said the American dream is fake, y'all. The American dream is fake. It doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't even matter. It's like a dream. It's a dream. it really is a dream. The American dream. Like, come on, man. It writes itself. But yeah, that's very, very interesting. Jeez. I just want to think, for the people that took all that time to travel, took all that time to come here and spend all their willpower and everything they had and grit and determination just to make it here from Venezuela, just to come back, just to say a few months later, you know, it's getting a little cold, man. It's getting a little nippy. I might need a coat or something, man. If not, I might have to go back. Yeah, that shows the state of where people are in today's society.
Somebody who can buy a ticket flight for them to come back to Venezuela.
So you have this activist saying that in their brain they have this American dream and it's a fake American dream. And to be clear, the American dream is in fact real. You can prosper in the United States of America. But if you want everything handed to you, if you want to be sheltered on the taxpayer dime, that has never been and should never be part of the bargain. You'll often hear people talk about how all of these people came to the United States of America through Ellis Island, and America was able to absorb these populations, make them into Americans. But the thing is, we didn't have a welfare state here. All of those stories about people coming with $10 in their pocket, $3 in their pocket, or whatever, they came to make it on their own. They knew that the American dream is the journey. It is the adventure. It's not the guarantee of benefits. And the only institutions that they were able to rely on were private institutions, whether they be the communities that had already formed in the United States of America, or churches or voluntary associations that weren't going to put these people up forever, indefinitely, because that's not how the American dream ever worked. these people are expecting so much more. And the city of Chicago, to be clear, did promise them that with all that virtue signaling legislation. But notice what Brandon Johnson is actually doing. He's not calling out the Biden administration like Eric Adams. He's not talking about how it's going to destroy the city. What he's actually doing is just not spending all that much money on the migrants, letting them camp out and hoping that winter will take its hold. So that way he can save face when these people decide that they don't want to be here or when they decide to leave. Now, what he should do is set up a ticketing office like the city of New York.
So they asking me a lot for if I know somebody who can buy a ticket flight for them to come back to Venezuela.
So that when people are upset about the weather and they're thinking about going back to Venezuela, going back to their home country, they can have a plane ticket put right in their hand that very day, and that will ultimately end up solving the problem. However, instead, what they're likely to do is move these people around or let these people move to other parts of the country, warmer parts of the country, so that the migrant crisis just shifts from within the confines of the city of Chicago to other cities that happen to have warmer weather, who, by the way, have made it clear, not just on a local level, but nationally in their presidential voting, that they don't want illegal migrants abusing the asylum system in our nation.
Sixth Ward Alderman Will Hall, who traveled to the border a few weeks ago, says word is spreading on social media among migrants that Chicago may not be the best place to come.
Wow. Okay. Well, I think I'm gonna pause it there and stop it there for today, because I think we learned a lot in those few minutes that we watched. Mainly, we have a lot of these migrants who are exploiting the system. They're abusing it and exploiting it. And like he said, Eric Johnson was saying, now you have people coming from all over the country or all over the world who are trying to come through the southern border, trying to get shipped up to New York City, trying to get asylum, and trying to use the open arms policy. So, whoo, it's a crazy, crazy time right now, and things are only getting started. We headed into 2024. We about a month out right now. Things are getting spicier by the day. I don't want to say that we're in the doom and gloom right now, but hey, it's looking a little like that. All right, but you guys already know what to do. Follow the channel. Make sure y'all subscribe. Make sure you hit the like button. I'm coming out with more of this heat, more of the truth. I'm not sure if anybody can handle it, but I gotta drop this news. I gotta talk about it. So appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys in the next video. Deuces. Peace. Wow. Wow. That's pretty crazy, man. That's pretty crazy. Um, yeah, I think I'm gonna end the video there because we covered a lot in that video. There was a lot of information that we went over, but I think the biggest thing to know is that no city is safe from this crisis, man. Okay, from the migrant caravan that is coming ongoing in 2024 and beyond. Okay, it's coming to a city near you. All right, just watch out for it. Okay, but no, seriously, I think about what Eric Johnson or about what Eric Adams was saying is pretty legit. I mean, as long as you try to find a way to not spend as much money, like my man was mentioning in the video, to try to find some way to kind of deal with them, I think that the problem will most likely handle itself, at least for the wintertime. But if we're just gonna bust them to like other warm weather states and then just try to push the issue off on another people's jurisdiction or their state or area, then yeah, the problem is gonna persist, and this could have long standing generational issues coming forth in the country as far as just population issues and what forth and whatnot. So I mean, I think that was a great point that Eric Adams made, but I just don't think they're handling the process correctly in the crisis correctly, and that they could do better. So frankly, they need to. But man, I just think we're going into a crazy time in the 2024. We're about a month out, like I mentioned earlier. So yeah, I think things are just gonna start to get spicier and spicier leading into the next year. But make sure y'all guys stay tuned for more information, for new videos. Okay, I'm dropping more heat, like I always mention. But I appreciate you guys the support. Make sure you hit that like button and make sure you subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Deuces.